Get out of the way, streamer audio gear. The professional audio industry has finally noticed us basement dwellers streaming on Twitch and how bad most of the streams sound, and they're here to fix all that. The PreSonus IO44 is here to take your streaming setup to the next level. It's got 40... a great mic preamp, virtual audio cables, multiple sub-mixes, onboard DSP, physical controls, and so much more. Plus, how could you forget the 44? Equip yourself with the next generation of audio gear today.
The IO44 is PreSonus's latest audio interface in the Revelator line of products. This takes everything I loved about the IO24, which I ditched my Go XLR for, and makes it even more suited for streamers or portable streams or recording sessions. This tiny box takes your XLR microphone or instrument input, 3.5mm headset input, and 3.5mm stereo line-in sources, and processes them with an onboard DSP. Gives you virtual audio channels to mix your stream with separate tracks and multiple submixes, and is tiny and ready to travel, with onboard preset storage and physical controls ready to rock. But is it worth the asking price over a more basic audio interface? In short, yes. If you're looking at buying an audio interface in the $100 to $200 range, the vast majority of your options will be super basic. 1 or 2 XLR inputs, a headphone output, maybe 1/4 inch line outs, or a MIDI output or something like that. And then you get a stereo pair output in Windows, and that's it. Some have better mic preamps than others for more, cleanly powering your microphones. Some will require wall power, while others are USB bus powered. At $180, the Revelator IO44 blows all of that away. On top of the standard mic in, speaker out, and USB connectivity options, this interface has a DSP, a digital signal processor. This is a hardware chip inside the interface that handles all of the post-processing chain, what PreSonus calls their FAT channel, within the device itself. This means lower latency for syncing up to other sources, no added CPU usage to cause crackling or other static issues, and it means you can save the settings to take with you between PCs or using just the 1/4 inch outputs and not even needing to be connected to a PC at all. For all of your processing needs, they all hold up. Very neat. This and the next big feature I'm going to talk about might sound familiar to a couple popular devices in the streaming space, but don't worry, we'll cover these later in the video. I didn't forget. Secondarily, the IO44 also offers virtual audio mixing and submixes. This means it creates some virtual audio devices on your computer named Playback, Virtual A, and Virtual B, which you can send various system sounds, music tracks, or voice chat to, and mix at different levels for different outputs or capture them all separately. This allows you to separate multiple sources to multiple audio tracks in an OBS recording, or to have entirely separate mixes for your headphones, your stream, and your recording, for example, to have music-free highlight reels or something like that. Very common needs in the streamer space these days. I cover how to set all of this up in my universal control tutorial I uploaded last week, linked below. The mic preamps in these PreSonus interfaces are actually pretty solid and better than I originally gave them credit for. It offers up to 60 decibels of gain, with the SM7B being powered cleanly around 40 to 45 decibels. People keep calling these preamps noisy because they crank it up to the max, which is not how they should be used. Virtually every preamp gets noisy at max gain. Plus, not all preamps have the same starting point. I'll cover this more in depth in a dedicated video later this week, so get subscribed for that. This is a microphone test using the Shure SM7B with the PreSonus Revelator IO44. Gain is set to 45 decibels, and this is a completely healthy signal. And even if I crank it up to 50 dB, if I go over here for 50 decibels right here, you actually start clipping if I start talking too loudly. So this is a perfectly clean signal. This will all be normalized, by the way, so you won't hear the gain change, but that's okay.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to tell you that your quest for gaming and streaming PC hardware is over. Every video, countless viewers rush out to upgrade their streaming PCs or get a new PC for gaming and streaming, only to discover that trying to buy a graphics card online is like trying to get a 4K TV on Black Friday. It's a mess. Jawa makes that easy, however. Jawa has some of the best PC builders in the country, building unique, customized PCs that you won't find anywhere else. You can choose a PC based on your budget for optimal price to performance or based on your gaming and streaming needs. Jawa makes it easy up front with their casual, hardcore, and pro gamer categories. But if you're not sure what you want or you want to fine tune from there, Jawa's team of experts can help recommend the best build for you. Plus, they're super accessible via email or Discord. Or maybe you want to build your own PC instead. Jawa also has great deals on PC parts in their marketplace. Head to the link below and save 10% up to $50 with coupon code EposVox at checkout. No more comments about not being able to find PC components. Find them on Jawa.
On top of those added features, this interface also has those extra inputs I mentioned, all of which get their own separate fat channel processing if desired. The 3.5mm line-in is stereo and can be used for a music input, a voice chat input, or to bring system sound in a dual PC streaming scenario. PreSonus advertises this as being useful in DJ sets for bringing in extraneous mixing equipment as well. The only downside here, as is always the case with multi-input audio interfaces for some reason, is that the primary inputs have to act as stereo pairs in Windows. With the IO44, that meant that both XLR combo jacks came in as a single stereo source, input 1 on left, input 2 on right, which is very obnoxious to deal with in streaming programs like OBS. With this IO44, it means that the XLR combo jack is on the left channel and the 3.5mm headset jack is on the right. Again, this is really annoying for streaming software, which won't let you split them up, but if you plan on just using headphones and not an actual headset mic on that jack, then it's not a problem and you can just downmix your XLR jack to mono in OBS and be off to the races. The Fat Channel post-processing suite is wonderful and provides a dedicated high-pass filter, a noise gate or expander, which you want to be gentle with as the default settings are a bit aggressive, 3 different types of EQ to choose from. I tend to go with parametric, but there's a couple other options if you'd like, 3 different types of compressors to choose from, and a limiter at the end of the chain. You can even swap the order of the EQ and compressor as you wish, though there is no option to add a secondary EQ to have EQ on both sides of the compressor, unfortunately. This is really powerful stuff, and you get dedicated fat channels and saved settings for all 3 inputs, which is something no other interface near this price range can do. There's also some goofy voice effects, though I'm not a huge fan of any of them. I go much more in depth on setting up the fat channel and exploring its presets in my dedicated universal control tutorial, which again is linked below. As with everything I review, it's not all great though. There are some consistent issues that I have with these PreSonus interfaces for streaming workflows. First is the physical layout. This comes from PreSonus being a music-first company, but both the IO24 and IO44 have IO routing on both sides. For a standard desktop streaming setup, this is really obnoxious to work with, as there's no good way to route the cables on your desk. For the IO24, I found some 3D printed mounting brackets to mount the interface under my desk, which I was going to use before I decided to upgrade to a rack-mounted audio interface. Instead, I'm selling these in my Discord, and we'll talk about the rack interface in a future video. The IO44 gets more egregious for desk use, however, as there's quite literally no way to have it accessible on your desk with the XLR input on the front, USB on the back, with the controls being on the top of the device rather than on the front like the IO24. It's just not functional like this. This is a great solution for that traveling musician or DJ setup like they showed in their marketing materials, but if I wanted to use this on a desk, there's a little way of making it look decent looking or a nice experience, and it ends up taking up more desk space than the larger IO24. I'm not that sad about it overall though, as to me, the physical controls here are borderline useless in my opinion. The mute button is for your headphones, not your microphone for some bizarre reason. There's 2 dedicated preset buttons for swapping between fat channel presets, but this has minimal use. You could use it to flip on one of the goofy voice effects, which has some utility, as the Go XLR proved with its dedicated voice effects stack, but otherwise, not something you'd really change on the fly that much, I wouldn't think, because you'd be connected to a computer. The arrows, screen, and dial let you change headphone volume and mic gain, but most of this is better managed in the software at this point anyway. I route my headphones separately via the main outs, going to a separate entirely audio setup, so I don't even use the headphone dial personally for myself. Again, all of these things come down to PreSonus trying to kind of merge the 2 worlds of audio that have different priorities. But just letting you know that the pain points are here and what they are, especially given how many comments I get reacting to the front XLR ports, even though most audio interfaces are set up that way. If you want an external controller for virtual submixing, you can do so using something like the Beacon Mix or PreSonus's Universal Control iPad app, which is pretty neat. And a member of my Discord server is developing a Stream Deck plugin right now. They've gotten it mostly working with the IO44, so progress is coming along quite nicely. Discord.gg/EposVox, by the way. I said before that most of the audio interfaces you'd find in this price range are weak by comparison, but that's not all of them. There are two primary audio interfaces that compete with the IO44 and the IO24 here, the Elgato Wave XLR and the Go XLR Mini. The Wave XLR from Elgato comes in at $160. It only has one singular XLR input, no instrument input, no headset jack, no secondary line in, just a headphone output and USB output, and it doesn't even have speaker outputs, but it's got a solid preamp. It's got great virtual audio mixing suites with, multiple virtual audio devices provided and more of them than the Revelator options, though most people don't need that many, and has a cool clip guard safety track feature to keep you from clipping. But it does not have a DSP. You're paying nearly the same price for a device with less inputs and doesn't process your microphone on board. Elgato have just added a VST host to their Wavelink software for Windows last December, and the beta for Mac just released, but that's using VSTs and adds CPU processing, latency, DPC driver issues, and so on. But it does allow you to loop in, better noise suppression VSTs like RTX Voice, whereas PreSonus doesn't currently offer any actual noise suppression filter. And you also have the freedom to use whatever VST plugins for processing for your microphone that you wish. If you have some nice paid plugins or something, that's kind of a plus. The Go XLR Mini, on the other hand, if you buy it in the United States, it technically costs $219, but if you import it by buying it on a site like Thomann, you can get it as low as $135, which is what it costs just about everywhere else in the world. That's a far higher value offering than either the Elgato or the PreSonus option, but only at that $135 price point, not at $219. The Go XLR Mini also has a DSP on board. This gives you a noise gate, which is awkward to work with in my opinion, a graphic EQ that I've never really gotten along with, and a compressor that I've disliked the sound of more and more as time passes. But it is a solid tool set if you're looking for mic processing, and especially if you're a beginner. It has nice clean preamps, though it only offers 24 volts of phantom power, which will be a problem for mini condenser mics requiring 48 volts. It's been kind of hit or miss which ones will actually work, whereas all the other interface options pretty much at all in this price point offer full 48 volts phantom power. The Go XLR Mini features 3.5mm line-in and a line-out, as well as an optical input for game consoles, making it much more of a compelling offer from an I/O routing perspective, especially for game streamers or desktop streamers of a certain variety. It offers just as many virtual audio devices as the Elgato Wave and a comprehensive routing table for routing all of your sources. And it even has 4 sliders on board on the device itself for controlling your levels. It's a pretty compelling offer, especially at $135, but as I said, more and more as time goes on, I'm really just not happy with the sound that you can get out of their DSP, and I'm just kind of done with it. I did also want to note here that Razer also just released what appears to be just a straight-up clone of the Go XLR Mini. Review on that coming soon as my sample got delayed. The IO44 is a very compelling offering that's bringing some much-needed variety and competition to the streaming audio space, but I feel like PreSonus still has some learning curves to hurdle if they really want to truly target streamers in a purely workflow and ergonomic sense. For the price, the IO44 is a very strong contender in terms of price and value, and possibly way more valuable than the slightly more expensive IO24 for many desktop streamers. And I can't wait to see what new audio innovations come into the space in the next couple years, because this is the start of the snowball rolling down the hill for pro audio and streaming audio converging, and I'm very stoked. Product links will be in the description below. As always, I'm EposVox, the Stream Professor. Remember, be kind, rewind.